As a kid, I remember sitting in the back of long car rides, having my fingers following raindrops as they slowly went down the window. Racing to see which one would hit the bottom. On sunny days though, I would pretend my fingers were running along the pylons, performing tricks, or just skateboarding along them. A short hike is that whimsical nature of being young, and exploring and just finding the fun in everything for just the sake of that. Having fun. It reminded me of going on long walks with my family when I was younger. I would sometimes wander off the beaten path, grab my own stick just like the character Claire does, and wander around. No purpose or goal. I simply just wanted to explore. A short hike isn't really about the destination. It's about the journey. There's no ticking clock, no enemies to fight, no looming catastrophe. It's just you and a mountain, and the world around you waiting to be explored. It's a game that thrives on curiosity, rewarding you for wandering off the beaten path, talking to strangers, and doing things just because you feel like it. It's that feeling of being a kid, running around outside with no real goal. It's just the simple joy of being there, being in the moment. A short hike puts you in the role of Claire, a young bird who's gone to Hawk Peak Provincial Park, where her Aunt May is a ranger. After a short conversation with your aunt, who had thought Claire had already gone off exploring the park, Claire is looking for phone service, and her aunt suggests the only place that she'll get phone service will be at the top of Hawk Peak. From here, the park is open for the player to explore at their own will. The plot of a short hike takes place between dialogue of those at the park. There isn't one core story outside of a person in their youth exploring a familiar, yet somewhere they've not been since their childhood. Seeing locals while realizing how much they love and appreciate their family. Those that you speak to on the island range from troubled artists full of self-doubt about their ability, and if anything they will paint will be good enough for the exhibition they were invited to kids on the beach creating a brand new game called Beach Stick Ball. Dialogue appears in small text boxes, but it's the way that it's written that makes it all feel unique.
So for one, I tried to write more natural conversations. Instead of using these big text boxes with a kind of a long monologue, I would use small bubbles without really any punctuation. This actually kind of felt more like the way that I would write when I'm texting people.
Depending on the character, the tone will change. It's a very natural way. If anything, it helps you understand the character's age and perspective. A lot of older characters with extended text boxes will use full words, whereas Claire was short, to the point. Lots of yeah or nah. Younger children who are still learning use many capital letters and extended sentences. It all just helps feel like the world and these individual characters are really alive and have their own unique personalities. These locals will also help clue you in on the basics of progression. It's simple. Get gold feathers or the extremely rare silver feathers by helping out the locals and, frankly, exploring the map. This could be as simple as playing the previously mentioned beach stick ball with the kids, or to exploring the whole island, finding shells which will then be turned into a necklace by one character for your Aunt May, who will then give you a golden feather in return. Collecting feathers is actually a big part of the progression, as it allows Claire to fly a little bit further, climb for a little bit longer. Each feather gives Claire an extra jump, or if she's flying, an extra flap. Claire needs to climb to the top of Hawk's Peak. However, without at least really 7 to 10 feathers, you won't even make it past the halfway point, which I dubbed in my playthrough the Mega Climb. When I first started playing, I attempted to scale the mountain as quickly as possible, exploring the paths that were very obvious to me just to see how far I could make it up. I was just rushing, but I wasn't able to make it past the Mega Climb. I had to explore and to find more feathers, which early on wasn't very difficult. However, even when I had enough to make it past the Mega Climb, Claire's feathers started to freeze further up, and part of that was due to Claire not wearing the appropriate clothing for being so high up. So I went down and I just decided, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to explore the island more. And really, that's where half the fun is. Exploring the island, seeing what's going on, the treasure hunt, making sure each NPC was spoken to, finding a mysterious land, which turns out far later in the game I learned was called Pat's Point. I learned to fish, and more than anything, for the fun of it, as it started a collection log, I found out that another bird was on a hustle, and they will sell a bunch of golden feathers to the player, if we're able to get all of the coins to pay, that is. What I learned was that this bird was using all of this money to fund its college tuition. For that sole reason alone, I made it my goal before finishing the game that I would get all the feathers from this bird so I could get this bird to college. No other reason. Just a weird goal. Reminds me a lot of other games where you just go on small side quests, self-inflicted, purely because you've just made it a personal quest of yours. Talking about the game itself.
A mostly unknown indie developer, I really relied on social media like Twitter to get people looking at my work. So I think the aesthetic of the game becomes pretty important because you only have a small moment to capture people's attention. And for small teams or solo developers, I think getting a look like this can be difficult or time consuming. So I consider myself limited in my technical skills in art. Like I can't do really great drawings and I haven't done a lot of modeling. So I have to try and find ways to make the game look interesting with the skills that I do have. So I have more of a background in programming. I have more experience with VFX and post-processing. So when I started working on this project, I kind of wanted to experiment with rendering a tiny world through these big crunchy pixels. Other than the fact that I think this look is cool, it also allowed me really to increase the scope of the game. I was able to get away with making simpler models, and I could make more of them much faster. And while this isn't perfect, I think it allows the player to fill in a lot of the details with their imagination, while still kind of giving the impression that I'm trying to make.
I adore this perfectly simplified aesthetic. And just as its developer assumed, I filled in a lot of the gaps where the pixels weren't. I wasn't always paying full attention to everything on the screen, but I still knew what was happening. I grew up playing a range of different video games in the late 90s and early 2000s. Anyone in this era will tell you how amazing the games were back then and how well they used to look. But when we all go back, very few of them actually hold up. A Short Hike took this concept for me and it made it its vocal point. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to grab your attention and to keep you hooked with how adorable it is. The plot isn't the deepest story. It's about a journey of self-discovery, speaking with others, and making your own fun along the way. Still, the simple factor that life isn't a strict narrative. It doesn't have a happy ending. It just kind of keeps going. The ascendance of the mountain is that analogy of growth. With each feather in your cap, as you grow and learn about the game, you also get to know more about the world that you find yourself in. But you can also achieve more. When you do, you finally make it to the top of the mountain. You're able to call your mother and have a heart-to-heart short chat. And then you fly all the way down to the bottom. As with every goal, if you achieve it or not, you'll have to start again from the beginning. But now with the knowledge you've gained from your journey, failure doesn't mean you failed, it just means you've learned what caused you to fail. You're learning from your shortcomings, and that you'll come out better than before. A Short Hike reminds me why I spend countless hours sometimes playing old school RuneScape, because it's a game with a vague endpoint of an objective that I set myself, such as when I want to complete a quest, but the way I get the skills and gear for that quest is fully open to me. A Short Hike opens right away with an open island and you get to explore what you will make of it. I wasn't fully aware till later on, while exploring, that I had enough money to purchase a boat rental. This is where I spent about 15 to 20 minutes just going around the island and learning about its boundaries and really starting to flesh out its full layout. The game isn't massive and it took me a total of 3 hours to fully get through. It's just this depth of a world that you can't appreciate at face value. You have to sit with it, let it stew with you to really appreciate it. And when I've brought up this game to others, it's something that they've all shared, that it wasn't a game that took them hours and hours to complete and see everything, but we all had our unique journey throughout that game. No one Short Hike is the same, just like life itself. On a last note about the adorableness of A Short Hike, the sound design, the little perfect footsteps to the sound effects of the characters talking, the adaptive music depending on where you are on the island. It was all just a chef's kiss. It wasn't overcooked. It didn't throw it in your face, but it was the culmination of the music and the sound design coming to a climax at the end of the game with its art style and the personal conversation of Claire that you can't help but smile as you watch. A short hike reminds me of a time I had forgotten in my life, where I wish to go on a hike, and I recommend you do too. But take a friend or two, turn your phones off, chat, say hello to those that you pass, and remember to just live in the moment. Also, do go and play a short hike. It's a fantastic game to go and escape on, and it's accessible on multiple different platforms in a wide variety of ways. I'm just gonna say it's a must-play game. So, with that all said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.